ladies, I'm amazed at the conversations I have with myself. Mostly the stories that I play in my head. Am I the only one who does that? Because let me tell you, I know in the past episodes, we have talked about my move from Madison to out of Green Bay to down here in Florida and the whole thing. And one of my struggles with the move was moving into a home already furnished. And I had the story that I kept repeating in my head. And this story was, well, it's not going to be my place. It doesn't have my belongings. This is, it's all going to be about them, and it's all going to be this. I'm like, like it was a circle. It went good. It was good. You would have brought popcorn to this movie. It was such a good story. Until it wasn't. Because who said any of that was true? Not one person has said that story was true. The only person that said that was a factual story was me. And it was a story I put in my head. And when I got to the cottage to spend the summer, I realized I had to change the story, or I was going to be miserable. Or I was going to be, what did they say? Putting my stake down. This is mine. I'm going to make this look like it's mine. So how has stories you told yourself affected you in the past?
Oh God, all the stories.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't have enough time to talk about all the stories.
The continuous loop.
Seriously, it's a, playback, rewind, playback, rewind, play. It's so interesting. There is a story that I tell quite often about how I text my sister and she does not respond. And I go through this whole thing. It's like you said, Michelle, there's bring the popcorn, because I literally have a play. It's a movie going on in my head and a dialogue and the whole thing about the fact that, it vacillates from I'm really worried to I'm really angry to I'm really indignant. It's amazing the array of emotions that I can dig up about the fact that I have not heard back from a text message. And I mean, I have like
screenplay, come on.
Like honestly, and I have bitched at other people about my sister not responding. She doesn't give a damn. She doesn't, what's her problem? Like the whole thing. And there was this one particular time where this happened, and I got really angry, and I texted her and I just said, I don't know what your problem is, but I'm really tired of you not texting back. And of course, she didn't respond to that message. And I was like, well, that's it. Like, we're done. Done. So I ended up calling her on the phone, like how real people talk, like, hey, let's have a conversation.
Old
right?
School.
Old school. Yeah. Like, what we grew up with, you had to get on the phone to talk to your friends and all that stuff. And she was like, oh my God, like my phone's been dead for weeks. I haven't had it. Like, it's not been, like, I'm so sorry. And, like, oh, I'm sure there's, like, besides you, I'm sure there's all sorts of people who are mad at me right now because I haven't responded. And I mean, she was just like my lovely sister, as she is a lovely person. And like the story quickly exited, like a wind had come in and taken it off. And I tell people that story because one of the biggest lessons I learned in that was to distinguish between what is fact
Mhm.
and what is made up. And when you can separate that out and go, the fact is, I texted my sister and I am awaiting a response, everything else leaves. Because you have to ask yourself, how true is all of that story? Does she not care about me? Of course she cares about me. Is she mad at me? No, she's not mad at me. I've not done anything for her to be mad at. Right?
Right.
Do I really can't stand her? Of course that's not true. Right? Like all of the things. It's like it's so fascinating. And I mean, it's just our humanness. It's our human brains that do that, but we do it all the time.
Mhm.
We create these fantasies about things that haven't even happened, right? Especially if, oh, I'm going to go do something. And it's like, okay, well, what's that going to look like? So our brains go, okay, I'm going to give you the whole scenario. I'm going to give you the worst case scenario of what's going to happen here. And you have this little play that happens and the dialogues, and he's going to say this and she's going to say this and I'm going to say this. And I mean, have you ever had those stories where you actually have a conversation
What?
about a problem with somebody and like, this hasn't even happened, and you get yourself all worked up about this conversation that you've got going on up here that hasn't actually happened from here.
Right.
You're like emotionally a wreck as a result of it. It blows my mind. Yeah, the stories we tell. What
And
about
the
you, Tracy?
energy and the
Oh,
stress and all of that to find out, oh, the phone was dead.
yes.
It's absolutely crazy.
I know. And like the being worked up, because I mean, this went on for like a couple of weeks. So, I mean, you can just imagine I was just getting more worked up and more upset and had more stories. And then I would go, oh my God, maybe there's something wrong. Like I shouldn't be upset. Like, there could be cause for concern here. Oh, I'm sure if I was, the kids would have called me. Somebody would have notified me if she was
So you
like,
went from one direction
oh,
to a whole nother direction.
and then I was like, well, no one's called me, so damn her. And like, I'm
I
gonna
don't
stay
like her
mad.
again.
Yeah. And it's like turning to my husband and going, she still hasn't texted me back. Can you like, cool your jets, girl? Cool your jets.
Now, Tracy G, what about you?
I can't remember one recently. I definitely have worked on that, and I definitely have had the full-blown conversations, and those have gone on for a very long time. And I always wind up being right, but I'm not. You know what I mean? Like in your conversations, like you blah blah blah, and then
Yes,
whatever.
this is the way
So
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I can't remember a recent one because I have worked really hard on that to really identify that, stop this nonsense. And it just pulls so much energy from you. And I guess it comes from insecurity, and you're just like, I'm not really sure, or maybe there was something happened 10 years ago and someone didn't phone me back. And so now anytime someone doesn't phone me back, they hate me or something. I don't know what it is, but yeah, we all do it.
Yes, we
Right.
do.
So
I think,
go
go
ahead.
ahead, Michelle. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Now, when these stories start, I tried very quickly to be like, oh, you don't even know. Like, you have no clue. You have no clue. Like, I literally have that conversation in my head. You have no clue. If it is something that, okay, so in a past episode, we talked about is no response a response, similar to the story about my son with him not responding. And so this conversation is now, is that true? How do you know it's true? Did you call the person and have a conversation with you? Has that person physically said those words to you? Last I knew, I was not a mind reader. It's not on one of my skill
It's not on
sets.
the resume, right?
It's not in my resume. So that's what I try to be like. Are you mind reading right now? And the other thing is, would I want somebody to have the same type of conversation about me? So would you want, Tracy, your sister to have a conversation about you in that same mannerism?
Oh,
And
I'm
I'm
sure
like,
she does. I'm sure she does.
Because everyone has those stories.
yes, but then when you clear the air, it's like, well, that was a stupid conversation in my head. Because how many times have you felt foolish about it? You're just talking about it. Your sister's phone died. I had, my conversation with my son. No response is a response. He was like, as I stated in that episode, it was more about, at that point, I needed a connection, and I didn't have that verbal conversation with him, like, hey, read my mind. How did your race go? Meant, hey, I really want to talk to you. Doesn't that say the same thing? No. So I had a story because I wasn't honest with him. So we have these stories we tell. But it's not just that. How many times have we had stories on a goal, on a passion, on something you've wanted to try to do? How many times have you talked yourself out of something because you were too afraid to do it?
Mhm.
But
You know?
why don't those stories ever be good stories? I didn't hear you talking to your sister like, oh my God, I bet she's having the best time and she'll get back to me in 2 weeks.
Oh yeah,
right?
no, that never happened.
Or, oh, my son, oh, what, why does it all, and you're now bringing up your dreams and goals and passions and all that. Why can't you ever why can't, if you're going to have a story, it be like a blockbuster? Come on.
Right. So that's what I want to talk about. It's like, I've taken the switch. So let's talk about my race. Again, this probably will have aired during around whatever my race. The last 4 weeks of my race is purely nerves, fear, anticipation, like, holy crap, what I get myself into. Like, there's all of these, the mind is now like, that mindset is going. Yes, I'm still training, but this mindset is like, so now I have to watch the story I'm telling myself.
Mm.
So my storytelling now, it's not like, oh, Michelle, you're the best. Look, you're going to have no problems meeting this goal, this and that. That's not going to happen. It's going to suck to get to this goal. But the story I'm telling myself is, when I'm having difficulty out at a certain point of my runs, I change that story. I have 20 minutes left in this run. I'm never going to get it. Oh, I have 20 minutes left in this run, and I'm going to hit my goal. I'm hitting my mile goal at my race. So now I'm starting to switch my story and maybe change my visualization of it a little bit more to show what I'm capable of doing. But that takes practice.
Mm-hmm.
Tracy, that takes practice, just like you said, because that is becoming uncomfortable. Because being in a negative martyr type, like, oh, my sister won't get back to me, my son's too busy for me, frame of mind is much easier.
And it's much easier because we have a natural negative bias.
Yes.
Like we were created that way because it served us when we started standing upright. We had
Right.
to be on the lookout for what was going to kill us.
Right.
And that was either some huge animal, or we were being kicked out of the community and we were going to die on the side of the forest somewhere. So we have a negative bias naturally. And when we are, you think about all of the language we listen to from the time we are toddlers all the way up to now. As toddlers, we're told, don't do this, don't do that, don't touch this, don't touch that, you don't, right? Negative, 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 right? We go to school, and again, we have a lot of negativity that is given to us. you don't belong to the group, you don't belong to the girls clique, you don't, you're not in the group, you don't get A's, you don't get, there's all of these expectations. And when you don't, again, it's the negative, negative, negative. So it's
Right.
constantly being fed to us. You finally get to an age, and for some of us, it's really young. Some of us, takes a while before you finally figure it out. It's like, you know what? This is up to me to change. I have to really work at this to go, just a minute. Here I go. Here's this negative chatter coming at me. What do I want to do with it? Do I want to sit here and play it out and go through that whole array of emotions with whatever story it is that's going through my head, whatever conversation it is that I'm having? Or do I want to just kind of park it and go, no,
Well,
I
it's not even,
I can't do that.
you don't have to park it. You can take it with you. You can say, you know what? You're right. I'm really scared to go out here, but I'm going out and I'm talking about my race. Like, I'm really nervous about this, but I'm not going to allow you to stop me. You can come with me. You can come on, let's go.
I think fear is a bit different though. Like, I mean, the whole conversation with my sister that I said, like,
Right.
I could have stopped that like long before it started and just gone, you know
Yes.
what? This is going to cost too much energy. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a reason. And all of what I'm saying to myself is untrue, unfounded. I don't even know. I don't
Right.
have the facts.
Right.
And to go, I'm just going to leave that over here. I'm just,
Yep.
I'll text her again a few days.
Yep.
She doesn't respond. Maybe I'll call.
Right.
And
I can see
I've learned that because I have crazy family dynamics. And if I did what you guys were doing, I would be woohoo, and because it would be nuts. And so I've learned, like, you can't take it with you. You stop it at the door and you just go, you know what? Whatever it is, it's a phone call, a text, whatever story you're putting in, you just don't allow it. You just stop it. And that's practice. That's
Yes.
full on practice. You just don't,
It is.
otherwise you just don't have the energy. It just sucks the living
Yeah.
life out of you, I tell you.
And texting is the worst because you get a text and you read it in whatever frame of reference you are in that moment, right?
And it's just like how you used to get an email. I mean, email was the exact same thing. You're reading a written word. You have no concept of what that person is saying. You don't know their tone of voice.
No.
You don't know what they're looking at.
But you could also get in a phone call because their tone of voice could be what Tracy just said, where you don't know where they're at. You phone them and their response is kind of put you a little off. And all of a sudden it's like, what did I do? What's going on? And it's like, no, they've got something going on. And either they're going to tell you or they're not. But don't stop taking on stuff. It's not your stuff to take on.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not your story to make up.
No.
That's the most important part. It's not your story to make up.
Unless you're going to write it down, make a movie, and make some money.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
Turn it. Yes.
You're reading my sonnet. Go ahead.
But that is what's really important to do, though, in terms of, circle back to your comment, Michelle, about the goals and dreams and aspirations and what it is that we want to do. We do have to write a positive script.
Yes.
And yes, it is better just to actually write a positive script and say, okay, I'm going to read this every day. I'm going to read this every day. Or like you said, I'm going to visualize going across that finish line. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to struggle. It doesn't mean that I'm not going to have problems, but I'm going to visualize going across that finish line.
Right.
And it's simple things to do, but you have to do them if you really want to make that change take place.
Right.
You really have to do it.
Which is the word practice. And people think of that for training, like for sports and that, but it's on everything. It's the, what were we talking about before about the weight loss where you're trying to every day do not eat or something?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was, but it was that commitment. You have to practice.
Yes.
You have to practice.
Right.
Yes. And you have to celebrate which is most important. You've got to celebrate the fact that you did it. So if you have stopped that, you've created the awareness that, okay, oh, I'm here I am, I'm doing that story again. I'm going to stop. You have to go, yes, well done. I did that. I did that.
Yep.
Not poo-poo it, not ignore it, not just go, oh, whatever. Because when you celebrate it, it reinforces what you've done and it makes it easier to do it the next time. It's like the visualization. You visualize that once and you're like, okay, I know I can do this. I can do it. And then
And
it
also,
makes it
if
easier
you
to
don't
visualize
celebrate
again.
the small things, you're not going to celebrate the big thing.
No, you won't. No, you won't hang out there. You might
No.
go, woo, and then you'll be off to the next
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Right.
Well, also, isn't that kind of crappy life where you because the big things come here and there, they don't come. You can celebrate every day with the little things, and it's like, oh, how much fun is that? You got little celebrations throughout your life rather than waiting for the big ones. What is there, 5 of them?
Yeah.
In a normal life, like what? That's the only thing you're going to celebrate?
Right.
Yeah.
So I do have a sonnet, lady.
Love your sonnets.
Stories in my head. Boy, can they be real, emotional, and convincing. These stories are so true, so vivid, so imaginative. I peeked into my mind and began to record these stories. I'm playing back the movie. Here is what I found. I was the author of the story, and what I was saying in this movie was solely my script. So when my script is being written, I change it if it's going in the wrong direction. Boy, that has been so much fun. Easy? No. But my story in my head now is a preview of my biggest dreams.
Nice.
So, tell us about stories in your head. What is a story that is on repeat that you can't seem to break? I'm talking to you, viewer, that you can't seem to break the cycle of that. And maybe we can help you with that. Maybe it could be something we discuss in another episode. So make sure you comment below. If you know somebody who is really good at storytelling, true or not, make sure you share this episode with them. Don't forget to subscribe and hit notifications because every Wednesday we have a new episode. Until then, see you later.
Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you as a regular member of our community.